Hi, so in this video we will talk about how you can create a content repurpose AI agent from podcasts to threads. So usually we listen to a lot of podcasts, for example, like business podcasts, etc. So we like to store a lot of great episodes. And then we would like to, sometimes we like to get some ideas from those useful podcasts and then to put the ideas into threads. So how can we automate the whole workflow? And that's why we are going to show you how we can do it with this end-to-end workflow. So all we need, of course, is RSS, OpenAI, Pinecone, MySQL. And we will also do the Retrieval-Augmented generation to make it as the database for our podcast stored. So let me try to explain again what RAG is. What it helps and why we need to use it. So basically, RAG optimizes the outputs from LLM by referencing authoritative knowledge database beyond the training data. So with these features, we can improve the relevance and accuracy to get more relevant ideas, because we will use AI to learn more about the data that we put into the database, so that it can retrieve a more relevant and more accurate answer for us. So basically, this is how it works. First of all, like prompt with inquiry, and then just the inquiry, we try to search for relevant information, and then relevant information for enhanced context, and then the enhanced context plus query plus prompt, it will be processed through the LM endpoint, and then to provide a generate text response from the knowledge database. So today we are going to use Pinecone as the vector database. In the last episode, we tried to use Subbase. Today we're going to use Pinecone. So there are three major workflows. The first one we call the automated podcast transcription and indexing. So of course, we need to fetch new podcast episodes from the RSS feed, and then review, edit the podcast metadata, and then try to transcribe the audio using OpenAI. And we'll store and index the transcription in Pinecone. And last but not least, we'll process the transcription into smaller and searchable segments. And the second workflow is to get threads ideas from podcast database. First of all, we receive chat messages and map universal data. And then we process the messages using an AI agent with OpenAI chat model and memory. And we'll utilize vector store for efficient data retrieval, and we'll send responses through threaded communications. For the last workflow is auto posting on threads. So we'll start the workflow and the trigger is activated, and then retrieve relevant data from MySQL database, and we'll generate the thread content for posting, and last but not least, we'll publish the thread or send the prepared data. So let's dive into our workflows on end-to-end. So after talking about on the high level how it works, so let's do a quick demo on how it works. So we click the chat, and then we paste the question. So for the podcast, it was related to the private label products in the retail market. So we asked, like, what factors are driving the growth of private label products in the retail market? So as you can see, it used Pinecone vector store to try to retrieve the data. And then on the left-hand side is the data that's processed through the Pinecone as well. So we can try to ask it to convert it to a Twitter post. Okay. So we have to specifically tell that how we need to rewrite the content, try to make it like a post so that we can post it to threads. So let's take a look at our account. Let's refresh it. Yeah, so it's posted immediately. So basically, it's how it works for this repurpose AI agent from podcasts to threads. So this time we use Pinecone. So we will teach you how to set it up first. So we go to the credentials on N, and then we need the API key for Pinecone. So we go to pinecone.io, and then we go to API keys on the left hand side, and then we click create API key and add the name and then create a key. So just copy it and then paste it back to end-to-end credentials. So that's easy. After setting up the credentials of Pinecone on end, so we need to know how to figure out like using Pinecone itself. So we go to pinecone.io and then database. We click create index and then enter the index name and configure. You can try to use text embedding 3 small. And then choose the cloud provider. We choose AWS, and the region will be Virginia. Yeah, and then click create index. So it's very easy. So for the first workflow, let's dive into it. So we are trying to automate the podcast transcription and indexing. So let's take a look at our end-to-end workflow. So first of all, is RSS feed trigger. So how we can get this URL from the podcast that you want? So actually, we can just ask ChatGPT. For example, what's the RSS URL for most standing thoughts on the market? So we'll get the URL, search the web. So we just get this link, and then we just copy this link and put it back to here. So basically, it's very easy to get the URL for the RSS. And then the next step will be the edit fields, and then we will have the URL for the podcasts, and then we will try to download the MP3 file for the podcasts, and then we'll do the transcription with OpenAI. So you can choose the operation there, transcribe a recording. As you can see on the left hand side will be the MP3 file, and then on the right hand side is trying to executing the code. As you can see, the transcription is done. And after the transcription is done, we'll put it to the Pinecone vector store, enter document from list end podcast. We use the OpenAI embedding as well, text embedding 3 small. And then it's default data loader. And then we curse character text splitter. Again, chunk size 1000, and then the chunk overlap is 100. So this is the first workflow. So after the first workflow, we have already done the transcription with OpenAI, and then we have already done the vector database with Pinecone. So for this second workflow, we will have the AI agent try to help us to retrieve the useful content from our podcast database. So for this node, map universal, we will get the section ID. So for this section ID is for the window buffer memory, so that we can have a memory for our chat history. So we again use OpenAI chat model. We use GPT-4o this time. And then vector store tool. So we retrieve podcast transcript, add the description, and then for limit 4, it means that it will try to get 4 most relevant data points. And then for this Pinecone vector store, and then we use the embedding, text embedding 3 small as well. It must be the same as the one that we used above. And then we call send threads. So we call this to post Twitter. Basically, it's the thread. So the input should be a text string of the tweet. We put Twitter there because just make sure that because I'm not sure that if anyone can understand what thread is. So just the format is Twitter, yeah. But we'll post it to threads. Okay, so the last workflow to send thread automatically. So we can have this execute workflow trigger, and then edit fields. So again, we have this JSON query for thread tests. So it's for a proxy official account, and then we have MySQL. Limit we set to 1, and then create a thread. Again, we have the waiting time, and then we post the thread data. And then basically it's done. So the return value, the data will be success. So basically, this is the quick demonstration of our workflow for the Content Repurpose AI agents from podcasts to threads. Hope you enjoy it. So for this demonstration, we use Pinecone, and then you can, if you want to learn more about how you can set up a vector database with Setup base, you can check out our last video. So hope you enjoy this. See you soon. Bye bye.